Hello, this is the Red Devil Review, podcast number 2, and it's the Champions League special where we will be chronicling Manchester United's foray into the European competition. William, are you excited for our Champions League campaign this year?
No.
You're not excited to see the likes of Falcao and Di Maria take on Real Madrid and Barcelona, Bayern Munich, Dortmund?
Not particularly, because we're not in it.
We're not in what?
We're not in the competition, Jamie.
We're not in the Manchester United have always, but we're in pot 1, mate.
We didn't qualify because
I don't understand. How did this happen?
Because in England, the top 4 teams qualify for the Champions League.
Right.
We didn't finish in the top 4, so we didn't.
No, that's bullshit though, because Liverpool finished like 5th and Chelsea finished 6th before, and they were in the Champions League the next year. What's going on there?
They won it, so they
won Liverpool won the Champions League. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, unfortunately so.
Unbelievable.
And if you remember, we didn't win it last year.
But I thought David Moyes was definitely going to win it because that was the reason why we kept him for so long, because he was definitely going to win the Champions League with him.
Yeah, no, that didn't happen because that would involve managerial skill.
Oh, fuck. So why are we doing this at all then? What is this all about? What can we talk about if we're not going to talk about Manchester United's glorious Champions League
okay, well, what we'll do...
Maribor.
No, what we'll do is we'll do a Liverpool and we'll review our history in the competition, and justify why we're not in it and how we deserve to be in it, even though we were awful last year, and give a general review of the other English teams and laugh at their shit.
Jesus, okay. Well, if you promised me that they were shit, then okay.
Mostly.
Okay, good. All right, well, we'll move straight on. So, Manchester United, obviously I was lying. I know we're not in the Champions League. I know acting skills aren't the strongest, but I'm sure you played along. So this is just going to be a quick review of our Champions League best bits in the history of Manchester United. It's the Champions League, not European Cup. Smart asses out there going, you forgot best at Benfica or whatever. Then we're going to do a Champions League review of all the English games and some of the highlights of the other games. Then we're going to go straight to some rumours that have been coming out about a certain prodigal son returning to Old Trafford.
Cleverson.
I actually didn't see that coming. I found that quite... I restrained myself from laughing. And we're going to then go do the ending.
Yeah.
Which is how we conclude everything, you know?
Yes.
All that begins must end, such is the nature of the universe. So, William, what is your favourite moment in the history of the Champions League?
See, I have 3.
Okay, well that's fine
because
I don't care, so go on.
Quite. Obviously, 99. The drama of Schmeichel coming up and almost actually scoring himself. And then Solskjaer.
Yes.
It wasn't actually the fact that it was a goal, because it was quite a scrappy goal. It was just the fact that it was the commentary.
It all counts, mate. They all count.
They all count indeed. But that was somewhat enthralling, which is remarkable because I didn't watch that match because I was about 3. So, yeah.
You went 3, were you?
Yeah, 3 or 4.
Oh, crap.
Then, of course, of recent times, there was 7-1 against Roma, particularly because we were 3-0 up after 6 minutes. And then we got to the point when it was Carrick and Alan Smith scoring goals. Didn't Ferdinand score one as well?
No, it was Carrick twice, Evra,
that was it. Yeah.
Ronaldo scored twice, which was like a big deal because he hadn't scored a Champions League goal then, believe it or not. And then, I remember Alan Smith scoring. For those of you who don't remember, we used to play the former MK Dons defensive midfielder Alan Smith up front.
That was brave.
Well, it worked for a time.
No, it didn't.
No, it did well until he got injured. Well, it didn't. Actually, no. I'll tell you what. Actually, that's a good point. There's a good chronology there because you're right. It didn't work for him up front. Then we turned him into a defensive midfielder when Sahar came back from injury. Then he was really good, and then he fucked up his leg, and then unfortunately rode off into the sunset as a subpar midfielder. Unfortunately for him.
And then, my final one is away against Lille. I can't remember the year. It might have been 2011.
I don't guess years if you don't know. I mean, you're going to.
It was the year of Henrik Larsson.
Oh, I don't... 2000... Oh, God.
11, I'm thinking.
11?
Anyway,
No, it was before we won the Champions League. It was like 2006-7 season, wasn't it? It was the season we won the league.
all the years are melding into one. That's shocking. And basically, it wasn't the fact. Giggs had scored.
You should have just said mid to late noughties.
Yes, Giggs had scored a free kick from wide left, and it had floated in, and it had gone.
And the keeper wasn't ready.
The keeper wasn't ready, and the entire team wasn't ready. And it wasn't the fact that it was. I mean, don't get me wrong. It was a fantastically beautiful free kick, but it wasn't the fact that it was a good free kick that makes it one of my favourite moments. It's the fact that Lille pretty much decided to boycott the rest of the game, because I think it was the 91st minute, and they were complaining about how there shouldn't have been any added time. And basically the managing staff came onto the field and started complaining, kicking off and saying, no, we're boycotting the game now because we think it was justified.
So it was a righteous indignation.
Yeah, it wasn't. I mean, don't get me wrong, it was a lovely free kick, but it was made better by the hilarious reaction of the Lille staff. What about you, Jeremy?
My favourite Champions League moments. I'm trying not to say Moscow because it's so easy, but obviously that's one of them. John Terry missing, I would say. My other one's an interesting one. Wayne Rooney's debut against Fenerbahce because he scored a hat-trick.
Ooh, yes.
Because obviously that sort of cemented him.
He scored a free kick, didn't he?
He did. I remember that. I remember thinking, oh, he could be good on free kicks, and then he is good on free kicks. But he never got a chance to be good on free kicks. But and now he's obviously not going to be the best at free kicks with the current squads we've got. Yeah, so that was really sick because he was 18. He just burst on the scene. He was England's darling, and it was like, oh crap, we need George Best or whatever. Didn't quite pan out that way, but he's still a cracking player. And the other one is obviously Liam Miller against Panathinaikos, where we'll remember that one, don't we? Okay, moving swiftly on to a review of the Champions League games. Me and William both have the sports sections of The Guardian because we're Ponzi Metropolitan Liberals. So here we are. So William, I hope you've got your knives out. Because
yes.
Let's find some scapegoats. Okay, Arsenal, failed.
They were laughably shit. They were just terrible.
They were terrible against Dortmund. The things that I found quite amusing about the whole thing was that all the things that I said in the first podcast that sounded like generalisations and easy targets turned out to be completely fucking accurate. So I said that Ozil, I wasn't impressed with the fact that they signed him and that it's proven that he's not good enough for them, or at least he's not good enough. He's not at the level that they expected from him, and he was lacklustre in that game in a way that I could almost have predicted. Welbeck had fought all of their chances, and he was off target with every single one. And the commentary in all the papers seems to be something along the lines of, "Oh, he was really good at work rate, but he's terrible up front." And it's that's the point. I don't know why they've got 11 attacking midfielders or whatever, or some stupid number like that. So they can only really play one up front, otherwise they have to bench half the team. So the problem is you've got Sonogo Giroud. Is that how you say his name?
Giroud. He's French.
Oh, sorry. And Welbeck, and all three of them are good at holding up the ball and not finishing. So
yes.
you either play with but the problem is if you play with two of them, you have to drop too many of the midfielders that you've overbought in that position for.
Yes, I mean there's an interesting statistic, which is that in the last 2 games for Daniel Welbeck, he's had 25% shot accuracy. So that's not goals scored, that's accuracy.
And that's just getting it on the target.
That's just getting on target, and he hasn't scored.
So 75% of the time, he's not even hitting the target.
And people were worried that Falcao wouldn't be as good as Welbeck.
You say that now, but Falcao might become, dare I say, Forlan, because he had 20 minutes and he didn't score. He had one chance and he missed it. So I mean, come on, flop City, mate.
Okay. Also, it's interesting to point out that because of Dortmund's fantastic pressure on the Arsenal midfield, which went completely missing and was missing passes left, right and centre, Arsenal failed to win a single tackle inside the Dortmund half.
Which is quite controversial, you'd think, given it's a Champions League game and you're trying to prove that you're better than last year, and you do exactly the same thing you did last year except slightly worse.
Yeah.
The problem is they added when they signed Alexis Sanchez, they signed a quality player, but they also signed somebody in the only position they didn't need, which was an attacking midfielder that can play wide, but well, I suppose no, I'll take that back, because he can play wide and doesn't prefer playing in the centre. But the problem is that they've got so many attacking midfielders that they're having to play people borderline out of position, so they've had to retrain Wilshere as a screening player, and Ramsey's had to stop his marauding runs, which made him so sick in the first place. You've got Oxlade-Chamberlain, I think, played essentially beside Arteta in that game. So I forgot Ramsey was playing in that game actually, which was quite terrifying. The other thing I know, it's a bit controversial given the way the build have been going on about them, and everyone was going on about is it Chiro Immobile and Aubameyang, but the amount of times that they sort of like screwed up little passes in the final third. They both scored themselves, and obviously they capped off a great performance. But between them and Mkhitaryan, it could have been 7 or 8. And I was thinking if they were against Bayern Munich or Real Madrid or a team with that sort of clinical up front, that could have been an absolute cricket score. But it was because they're not quite as good as Lewandowski. Like if Lewandowski was still playing for them, I reckon he could have got 4 in that game easily. But they still got their goals, and they deserved their goals, and they probably deserve more than 1 each.
2 other points I'd like to talk about before we move on is that Borussia Dortmund only had 6 subs because of injuries.
Or is that a Guardian misprint? We don't know.
No. They only the subs not used. There were Langerak, Kagawa, and Bandowski. If you think about the players who are missing,
it's Gundogan, Royce, Hummels,
Blashkovich, Kagawa didn't play. If they had a full strength side, as you said, it could have been an absolute massacre.
I mean, it still is being reported as a massacre, but
it was only 2-0.
I think Arsene Wenger's lucky because it was, at the end of the day, just a 2-0 defeat against Dortmund, which you could have played well and lost 2-0 to Dortmund away. And that's maybe the biggest problem in paving over the cracks is the scoreline, because I think in terms of pressure on Wenger, he's got out of this, because this could have been 6 or 7, and people would have been like, Wenger's wasted the transfer window, they haven't moved forward, the FA Cup, they nearly lost against Hull. Like, suddenly that retrospectively doesn't look like a glorious avocation of his achievements, but rather something to paper over the cracks again. They haven't got a holding midfield. Anyone could have told you a 33-year-old like Mikel Arteta is not going to be able to deal with Dortmund's midfield.
Yeah, on the issue of defence, Arsenal's defence, if you look at where they are, as they should be a Champions League team, it's just not good enough. I mean, the starting back four was Bellerin, Mertesacker, Koscielny and Gibbs. And there's a distinct lack of pace in the centre-backs that can easily be exploited.
Because Koscielny, like, in his praises, say Koscielny and Mertesacker have a good relationship in terms of, and Koscielny's the quick one out of the two. But when Chiro Immobile was like running past and he just left Koscielny for dead, it's the indecision really. Like Koscielny's fast, but he takes like half a second to go, should I tackle him? No, he's already passed him.
Yeah.
So it's more like, that was more of an individual error. I like Gibbs.
Good for you.
Yeah, I know, I think he's alright. And Bellerin had a pretty decent debut, but he was just left exposed.
The problem with Bellerin is that Mertesacker was the defender next to him. So if Bellerin was out of position for any reason, he had...
But Bellerin is really fast, by all accounts, faster than Walcott.
True.
So he can sort of do that whole... The only problem with being really fast, I find, is that you can rely on it too much. I mean, if you look at people who are really, really fast, you've got Bon Lahore, this is the Premier League, for there may be some more examples. You've got like Aaron Lennon, Walcott, Micah Richards, Bellerin now. My worry for Bellerin would be, going into his development, is you rely too much on your pace. So you don't really feel like you need to do anything else. Another example, I think his name is David Odonkor. I know he was in the he was like once touted to be a good German winger, but apparently he's just so quick but nothing else. I think he ended up being shipped out to Betis. And that's the sort of problem, I think, with people who have like one thing they're really good at. That's what he has to be careful about now in his development. But I'm sure Wenger will make him a decent right back and sell him anyway. So it's all good. So moving straight on to the scum,
the scum themselves. Liverpool playing against, I think it was Belarusian champions.
Yeah. No, it's Bulgarian.
Bulgarian champions.
Ludogorets. I've had a few. Nearly, but no, because they won 2-1, didn't they?
Yeah. Liverpool, unfortunately, victorious. The point to make is, although Liverpool seemed a large part comfortable, when you're having to rely on a goal from Balotelli in the 82nd minute and then a winner from a penalty from Gerrard, admittedly it was a penalty, but that is... if I was Brendan Rodgers, I sound like Jonathan Ross. If I was Brendan Rodgers, then I would be worried.
Yeah, it was an interesting one because it was a needlessly nervy affair. Admittedly, if you'd watched Ludogorets in last year in the Europa League, as I'm sure many people who do betting accumulators will know, they drew 0-0 away against Lyon, and I think they got a lot of decent results.
Lost a fiver
in the Europa League last season in terms of defensive performances. So I wasn't surprised it was a slender margin. What I was surprised was the fact that Ludogorets were able to score.
Yes.
Because they shouldn't be able to score.
And if Gerrard, and again,
it was a penalty. I have to.
It was a penalty, but if that hadn't got to that position, it would have been 1-1. And then
Ludogorets basically threw themselves under the bus because the goalkeeper. I don't think you saw the incident, but like the defender passed it back to the goalie. The goalie massively hits it in front of him. Manquillo, the right back, has just made a desperate marauding run forward, which he probably shouldn't have been making anyway. Gets in the front and the goalie takes him out.
Yeah.
So if the goalie just was slightly better, or Manquillo had decided not to make a crazy kamikaze run forwards,
there would have been 1-1.
It would have been 1-1, and people would have been like,
the press would have been absolutely slating Rodgers.
And it was odd. It was like the crowd were very excited they were in the Champions League again. And it was quite emotion here in the Neville Cologne and all that. You had some crazy red-faced people shouting, and then it sort of nothing happened because the Bulgarians were really good at retaining possession on the back four, which I thought was an odd tactic. But
to be honest, if you're a team from Bulgaria where you would be self-aware that your league isn't the best in the world, you go to Liverpool, which is one of the biggest teams.
They were very disciplined. That's what I liked about them.
Yes, they were very disciplined because obviously that's what you would do, and the fact that Liverpool took 82 minutes to break them down.
It did make for a very boring game, though. Like I was like, I see what you're doing here, but this is incredibly dull. I really wish you were just gung ho and scored.
Not everyone can be Swansea, Jamie.
That's what we have to learn to live with. So moving on to yesterday's action amongst the English teams. So
should we start with the other scumbags?
Man City?
Yes.
Oh, Man City.
Man City.
So things I really want to note about this. Funny because Boateng scored.
Yes.
They were quite unlucky in the sense they probably could have had 0-0 and Aguero should have equalised right at the end. But what was interesting about this is that the scapegoat for this game appears, as far as I'm aware from the press, to be Yaya Toure, who had another pretty average game. Another game where, at the top level, basically the reasons Barcelona sold him have come back to haunt him again.
I wouldn't say that Toure... I wouldn't say that Toure was particularly bad. I'd just say he was quite... You just blended in.
He wasn't the Toure of running forward and scoring absolutely insane goals.
He just did a very average performance, which unfortunately,
it's not good enough.
Which you can carry it when you're against, I don't know, at home against Stoke, but away against Bayern.
Wait, they can't because they lost to home.
Well, sorry, I forgot. I chose any team, and of course it was the team they lost to.
Yeah.
But you can't do that against Bayern Munich.
And this is something that Man City fans have actually been complaining about. They've been saying how Fernandinho really made the team last season because Yaya Toure was able to make these marauding runs forward, and he's become less and less concerned with defensive work as time has gone on. But I'd also say, in the context of Yaya Toure's defence, he's the wrong side of 30. He played on the weekend. His brother died in the summer. He clearly wanted to leave in the summer, but wasn't allowed to leave. And now people are having a go at him for not enthusiastically leading them through the group stages.
It's almost like he doesn't want to be there. It's almost like that, but obviously...
Well, he doesn't... Even if he wants to be there, you can see why he might have an off day.
I mean, yeah. I mean, the one thing that is common throughout the press the morning after is that Joe Hart tried his heart out.
Oh, did he? Is that...
yeah, come on. That's not a Daily Mirror headline. That's something I just... Off the cuff.
Off the cuff. This is the level.
Yep. He really tried, but after a while, and after such a strong Bayern Munich performance, there's only so much you can do before you let one in. And if at the end of the day, Aguero had a great chance, as you said, to level it.
Yeah, he probably should have got that one. And the other thing is that David Silva had like the most blatant penalty turned down. Bonatti just clears him out right in front of the referee, and the referee's like, nah. So, I mean, I don't care that Man City didn't get the decisions.
No, I'm very happy that they lost.
But I do like justice in football, so I was quite annoyed that it wasn't a penalty. I'd rather they got the penalty and then they missed it. That would be the perfect situation for me.
And in a segue that almost
talking
sounds like
about controversy.
Yes, in almost like a pre-planned segue, even though it actually isn't. Justice in football, and now we're moving on to Chelsea-Schalke.
Chelsea-Schalke, an interesting one, William. So, paint the scene of the first goal.
Well,
do you want me to do that?
No, I'll do it.
Okay,
I don't mind. Schalke looking a bit dodgy in the back, passing it around defence, tried to pass it into a defensive midfielder, was tackled.
William, that's an interesting way of using the word tackled, because that implies that the ball was won and it wasn't a horrifying tackle.
Well, no, I was going to say it was tackled, it went to an offensive player, and then was completely clattered by Fabregas.
Fabregas was
writhing around on the floor in pain, and then a couple of passes later, the same man scores a goal.
And reels away. And then what I found annoying about this incident, there was a bunch of things I found annoying about this incident. One was the fact that the commentator didn't pick up on it, so it was like, goal Fabregas. Oh, I think Schalke players are complaining, as if they had no reason to complain. Two, not only was it a foul, at the speed he goes at him, and the fact that he's really late, and he goes in between two legs, and it's I don't think it was studs up, but it was two-footed. I've seen red cards for less in Europe. Didn't even get a booking. In fact, obviously got a goal. And the third thing which really irked me was Huntelaar comes rushing out going, for God's sake, blah, 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 this is the goal, blah, blah, blah. And the referee goes to give him a yellow. Huntelaar shows him his captain's armband and says, "I'm the captain, I'm allowed to," and the ref, and you can clearly see it, goes, "I don't care," and gives him a yellow. So what annoyed me about that was, not only am I grossly wrong, not only am I the pawn of the home team, but when the captain, who's allowed to speak to me, takes umbrage with my shite decisions, I don't care about the rules, here's a yellow card. But William, poetic justice occurred in some sort of form later on in the game, didn't it?
Because Fabregas was on, I would say, yeah, you'd say it was the edge of the Schalke area. Looking like
straight from their corner.
Yeah, it looked like he was about to tee up a shot or tee up a pass, and kind of fell as he was tackled and then fell over.
Picked his pocket, mate.
Yes, he picked his pocket, and then he whined like a little biatch, like to the referee, who thankfully made the right decision and said, "Get up, you lazy bastard." And then Schalke broke on Chelsea, and it was Huntelaar who scored. So in that sense, it was kind of
Draxler looked pretty tasty, and
with his, what did I say earlier?
You said marauding runs.
No, I said something much funnier than that.
Oh, okay. Well, tough. You didn't come up with that now, then you don't
never mind.
Have it heard.
Never mind. And yeah, it was just the fact that it was, of all the players, it was Fabregas to make the fuck up and Huntelaar to finish it off.
And what made it even sweeter was the fact that then Chelsea had completely dominated the game from start to finish and still couldn't get the points they needed. Bit of a disappointment. Interesting one. There was a full-on 20-minute discussion with Jamie Redknapp and Michael Ballack about whether or not...
Were they talking about Frank Lampard being the best player in the world?
No, they weren't. They were talking about whether or not Diego Costa should have started, even though they started this conversation literally seconds after a Mourinho interview where he explicitly stated that Diego Costa had a hamstring injury and wouldn't be able to play regardless. So they spent a good 20 minutes of preamble, post-match analysis on a player that couldn't play and whether or not they could have played. Which I thought was a fascinating waste of time.
Yes, it's almost like they were searching for something to talk about other than...
It's almost as if you don't need that much coverage. So that's all the English teams sorted out in the Champions League. Highlights of the night. Real Madrid taking pressure off Ancelotti, who hasn't done too well in the league, winning 5-1 against Basel. Porto dicking on BAT Borisov 6-0. What I found quite cool about that, what I found quite interesting about that is watching the highlights and realising, because I didn't realise this, that Bruno Martins Indi plays for Porto now. And I remember thinking, that would have been a good signing.
That would have been a good signing.
Good centre-back signing. We need a centre-back. But he's already gone to Porto, so that's a shame. But Porto seems to be a holding pen for wonder kids.
Yes.
Like, their whole team is just players that are going to be twice the player.
We can get Martin, if Smalling doesn't improve much, and we can sell him off to somewhere
West
like...
Brom.
We can sell Hull. Steve Bruce will love the...
we'd love... Oh, that would be great.
That would be a great sign.
Curtis Davis replacement right there.
Yeah, exactly. And then we can get Martins Indian and have some competent defenders. Would always be nice. Also, an interesting story is the Roma game, which of course finished 5-1 to the home side.
Fantastic in that game.
They were absolutely sublime with the pick of the goals, in my opinion, by Gervinho.
Yeah, Gervinho. He's got two, and they're both lovely.
Yes, set up by a 37-year-old Francesco Totti.
He doesn't give a fuck, does he?
No, he just doesn't give a shit.
Italian gigs.
Interesting, quite interesting would be after the game, CSK Moscow fans apparently went around near the Stadio Olimpico and smashed up car windows and things.
As you do when you lose.
I mean, they've already been done for racism, so this seems kind of childlike in a sense.
This is literally throw toys out of the pram.
It seems... at first point, I'm like, okay, I see the passion. But when it gets to the point where you've already been done for racism and now you're just smashing people's shit...
We know it's the same guys, but
no,
like, collectively it's not doing Russian football any good.
Other than the institutional racism, which is probably already...
Which is ironic, because their best striker is Seydou Doumbia.
Yes. Anyway...
And also the only thing that's going to happen from that, presumably, is that they either be arrested and put in Italian prison and Putin won't give a fuck about them because they're just examples of how Russia... But he's going to abandon them if they do get arrested in Italy for this criminal damage. And also, the UEFA will probably just ban away fans, which makes it much harder for you because you have to go to like foreign countries as a team in the Champions League group stages or the knockout rounds if Moscow are fortunate enough, with no away fans to give you any sort of support. So they're just making it harder for themselves by doing this. So I don't understand that sort of level of stupidity. But I imagine alcohol had been poured. We need to remember that Roma fans have been historically dickheads in the past as well.
Yes.
So I'm not saying that
it's not quite a Millwall Leeds situation, but
no. But what I'm saying is that there always have been away fans that have kicked off in the Champions League, and the UEFA should do more about this because it's 2014. We have fucking smartphones and touch screens, and we're now bored about the fact men were on the moon and stuff, and we still have people smashing cars after football games, which is pretty fucking pathetic in my view. The final bit of Champions League news would be that Nani scored for Sporting Lisbon.
Yes, and let's not lie.
Against Maribor.
Yes,
though.
but it was a delightful finish.
It was the goal
And
of the night.
and as you said earlier, off this little bitty that we're doing right now.
Well, who's to say? I'm not going to say it. Will you tell me what I said and I'll just
Well,
concur.
it's like Kagawa and Nani. Even though in hindsight it all looked like that they were mistakes to sign, but actually we just didn't play them in the right position. It was more like that they didn't fit our system. But then as soon as
No,
they
this
came
is
back to
literally
effective-
not. That is not.
Are
I've got
you
to tell
sure?
That's not a word of what I said.
Are you brutally sure?
Absolutely
I'm-
certain.
I think
because
I- I
what
think
I
I'm-
said,
okay,
what
fine.
I said is it may look retrospectively like we sold them incorrectly because they'll shine for Sporting in Dortmund, but the problem was the fact they were playing for Man United in the sense that what they needed to make them hit form was a move. Kagawa needed to return to Dortmund to get good because he wanted to play for Dortmund and it hadn't worked out. Nani needed to go somewhere else where he's a big fish and the fans aren't treating him with contempt for being lazy. I mean, I didn't watch that game, I only saw the highlights, but I can assume Nani did not track back the whole of that game. And luckily they were only against the Slovenian champions who equalised, I mean, so Sporting didn't even win, so Nani's goal was not inconsequential, but was hardly a winner. And we already know, Man United fans already know Nani can pull off these incredible goals. The problem is the rest of his game.
That's fantastic. It's just like, it's not that he can't score goals, it's that he's shit everywhere else.
No, we know he's capable of these nice cuts inside and scoring. It's the fact that he'll then concede 2 goals with his indecision or lack of tracking back. I should make the point that he didn't. It wasn't his fault. The Maribor goal was an absolute fuck up by the 2 centre backs, who decided to just go on some. They literally decided to concede a goal. Like it was like they were so bad it looked like match fixing. Like
Oh really?
Like one of the right centre back clears it upwards,
Genius.
and then it falls onto the head of the left centre back, who then headers it nowhere near the goalie, but in the air. So then a striker can just like oncoming header it. And then I think it was a teenager as well. It was pretty cool, and like add stoppage time to make it 1-0. It was quite horrendous. Such is the production line of Sporting Lisbon centre back.
Make it 1-1.
Yeah, it did 1-0. Maribor drew 1-0
Oh right, yeah,
Sporting
sorry.
Lisbon.
Sorry.
incredible.
I thought you were talking about Sporting then.
Which means that Chelsea's draw with Schalke doesn't mean anything because obviously Maribor is supposed to be the whipping boys and they've unfortunately proven not to be the whipping boys, which means that the
Which
chances,
is frustrating because now Chelsea will probably go through.
Chelsea, or well, they were going to go through anyway. It's the easiest group of Chelsea and easy groups go together like peanut butter and jelly. So I wasn't surprised to see that they avoided anyone difficult. Quite funny to see Man City and Liverpool get quite difficult groups. Can you imagine Real Madrid Liverpool with Liverpool playing like that? It's gonna be quite funny. Come on, Ronaldo.
What's the Spanish term for 11 Champions Leagues? Because Lissima is 10. What's 11?
I don't know, William. I'm not a linguist.
Okay, I was just curious because then that could be the default reaction of what happens when Liverpool try.
Well, no, they do that every single time because it was called La Septima, I think it was, when they won their 7th one, which was the one first one they won famously not in black and white, which was like a big deal.
Ooh.
Because they used to have a whole thing that used to be a thing up until the 90s. It used to be people used to be criticising Real Madrid, being like, "Oh, well, Real Madrid have this glorious history they go on about all the time, remind you of anyone, but they haven't done anything lately." And then they decided, "All right, we'll do loads of things lately," and then they won everything.
I love the way you say "reminded me of anyone," like about obviously dig at Liverpool, but then we spent a good 10 minutes talking about our favourite bits because we are.
Our favourite bits of the Champions League are stuff that we actually saw. They're not hypothetical things.
Are you sure?
Because
I did specifically not see 99, as I said earlier. But anyway, that doesn't matter.
Okay, moving swiftly onwards. Guillem Balaguer is being a cock tease again.
Dear, what's he done?
We
know what he's done, but
he's claiming that Cristiano Ronaldo would like to return to Manchester United someday, one day, eventually, but I'm not going to reveal to you the exact details because either A, I'm bullshitting you, B, I don't know, or I'm saying the obvious, which is that Ronaldo wants to come back to United one day. That's not the issue, because maybe he will as an ambassador, or when he's 37. The issue is whether or not we get him in the fucking prime of his powers next season, which would be an absolute game changer. Because I think people are so excited about Ronaldo coming back. I would take Ronaldo back if he lost one of his legs.
Okay. Let's not hyperbolise. That's clearly not true.
No, I would take him back as like an ambassador or a coach or a scout, like whatever. I'd like him in the Man United setup. I'd like great for him to be back in the fold. The issue is whether or not he comes back as a player who can like deliver for us. In the same way that like we're going to go on to it later, the idea of like Solskjaer, like I'd have him back in the training setup. I'm not saying he'll play for us, obviously. I'm saying I'd have him back.
Well, we're saying that he does still look like he's 19, so.
Well, but unfortunately, like
blessed with a baby
Muscles
face.
don't lie, unfortunately. The body catches
That's a
that.
shame.
Time is a cruel mistress. But that sounds like something that could be a game changer for us.
I mean,
if we got into the Champions League next season and then we signed Ronaldo in the closing.
I mean, because let's not lie.
That would be incredible.
If we had a front three, because if we said Van Persie was to...
If Van Persie eventually is phased out and becomes a bit-pop player,
And we
which
had
is an
a-
incredible bit-pop player,
Yes.
may I add.
If we had a front three of Rooney on the left, Ronaldo on the right, and Falcao up front...
Or Di Maria, Falcao, Ronaldo, which would be basically what Real Madrid wanted to have but didn't have.
Then Rooney slotting back into midfield, where Di Maria is now.
I mean, let's not talk about the tactics because the idea of Ronaldo coming back and just... I've got goal compilations of his final season in my head going around as we speak. The free kick against Portsmouth, the run against Fulham. Oh my days. And I'm sure you people out there would love Ronaldo back. But is this the right way to be going about it? Should we be spending our resources trying to bring Ronaldo back? Or is this like a massive, commercial stunt, essentially, to try and get like sponsors? Should we really be trying to invest this sort of level of money in finding the next Ronaldo?
I mean, yes and no.
Okay, so
Because
yes first. The yes counts.
we should be trying to find the next Ronaldo, because
Well,
obviously
that next
that's-
Ronaldo was Gareth Bale, but unfortunately Real Madrid got that.
Oh, have they signed him? I hadn't noticed.
Yeah, because last year you said that where has he gone? It turns out he's one of the best players in the world.
Oh my god.
Oh, it's a shame.
Anyway,
move on.
if we look at players, but if we have some actual decision making, so that we can actually purchase the next Ronaldo rather than pretend that we have, even though he's clearly not playing for us, that would always be good. But also, if we brought Ronaldo back and loads of sponsors said, okay, yeah, we'll join United because you got Ronaldo and we can make a financial killing and we can get a lot of money from it, then why not?
No, but I'm saying, is it cynical for the pre-existing sponsors? For like Chevrolet, no doubt, would push that deal through and be like, yeah, Ronaldo can, sit next to our cars and stuff.
I wouldn't care that much. As if we got more money that would result in better facilities and better quality of players, then yeah.
Cut down that sweet, sweet debt that the Glazers poured on us, like treacle on a pigeon. But I would also say, because the relationship between the fans and Ronaldo is so strong, even if it is a cynical marketing ploy, people will lap that shit up regardless.
Yeah, I mean, why wouldn't they?
He's incredible.
He's arguably one of the best players ever.
Yeah.
And why wouldn't...
Here's a question. Would you rather have Ronaldo next summer or Messi?
Ronaldo.
I think a lot of Man United fans would rather have Ronaldo back because he's ours.
Also,
than have Messi.
without sounding too much like Paul Merson, he's tried and tested in the Premier League, and he can perform because he's also got that strength. Whereas Messi...
Oh, I forgot.
He's a wee little bastard.
Yeah, like Modric and Mata, who obviously couldn't.
No.
League.
That's why they got sold to respectively bigger teams in other leagues.
Yeah, well, no, Mata plays for us now, really.
I know.
Oh no, but we're not in the Champions League.
No,
which
we're
is
not.
the biggest league of them all.
Exactly. That's why I said he's in a different league now.
Fuck's sake. For God's sake. Right.
So yeah, final thing is
Solskjaer's going to leave.
Yeah,
Cardiff.
Solskjaer's leaving Cardiff. And at first...
Ollie, you silly prick.
See, the sad thing about this is that at first I was victim of the media that said that Vincent Tan was evil and Malky Mackay should have stayed at Cardiff. So I wasn't hostile towards Solskjaer to start with. I was just like, but it should have been Malky Mackay. Now he's turned out to be a racist, homophobic, sexist bastard.
Oh, he's anti-Semitic as well.
Oh, he's anti-Semitic as well.
It's a bit of banter, William.
I really wish Solskjaer had stayed on as the one to shepherd the ship. To shepherd the ship is to steer the ship.
Yeah, but the other thing is that you wish that, but Cardiff fans don't because he's been shite for them.
In that case, let him go then. Fine.
That's the main issue. Is he just keeps rotating the side. Like he doesn't know his best team, but it's apparently intentional. I read some other stuff on the subreddit of people who know more than me about this sort of thing. And they were saying that they're like Mulder fans, and they said, he doesn't really have a best 11 on purpose. He keeps rotating the side to make sure everyone has a game. I feel like this is the psychological trauma of being a bench player coming out. Just make sure everyone's happy.
Yes, but
everyone plays a game.
But would
even
you
if it makes
rather
no
would
sense.
you rather be a striker who played relatively often in a mixed system that wasn't particularly successful, or would you rather be, as his nickname, a super sub where he comes on and almost scores pretty much every game?
I mean, that's exactly.
I would much rather be a super sub.
But that's odd because I suppose because you have to weigh that up and it's a sacrifice, isn't it? It's like accepting. It's like when people who are backup keepers who could play lower down the leagues choose they'd rather be like Mark Schwarzer. He'd rather be the backup keeper for Chelsea and play maybe 3 times a season, but be part of a squad that could win trophies, or be like Fulham's goalie in the Championship or something. And it's that sort of. I think you have to make those decisions. And Solskjaer clearly made that decision, presumably because he'd come straight from. I think he came straight from the Norwegian league, straight to Manchester United. and thought, well, this is as good as it's getting. Which is why a lot of people assumed Javi Hernandez would feel that way as a Mexican player coming from the Mexican league, going straight to Manchester United. But obviously the difference there is that the biggest thing for someone who from Latin America is to go to Real Madrid or Barcelona. So if he'd gone straight to Barcelona or Real Madrid, he'd probably be happy being a bit part player. But Manchester United isn't the end game, as unfortunately we've found out with like Ronaldo and things like that, which is a real shame.
It is sad, however,
because he was all right as a bit of a player, but what I would say is that he is nowhere near the level of Solskjaer.
True.
And it got to the point towards the end where if the goals dried up, you literally have nothing in store for us. Certainly not at the highest level. Well, or certainly not at the level of trying to claw our way back into the competition,
yes,
which we, by right, should be in. So,
on the issue of Solskjaer at Cardiff, I mean, it depends who they go for next, but hopefully it's someone...
It won't be Malky fucking Mackay, will it?
Well, hopefully it's not someone who is prejudiced against every nationality.
Well, it's a shame because they've got a lot of nationalities in that Cardiff squad to be racist towards, so...
So, you know, right...
Pick a field... Well, I'm sure Malcolm Mackay did have a field day, I don't know why. But yeah...
Evidently. But I hope Solskjaer, as you said earlier, I hope he does come back to United as a coach.
At some point.
At some point. It might be now.
But I think a lot of these things, it's like, it would be nice, but alternatively, if there's a unknown... Well, not unknown to the fans, Dutch youth coach or first team coach who is by miles better than him and knows Van Gaal for the last 40 years of his life, then obviously I don't want Solskjaer back.
Until you said 40 years of his life, I was only thinking, well, like Patrick Kluivert, but...
Well, Patrick Kluivert's apparently looking for jobs. Well, he's flirting with jobs, isn't he? He's being like linked with the Huddersfield job and then immediately being like, I didn't apply for the Huddersfield job, but you definitely did. We had you in the offices and everything.
Oh, right.
So you think about it. No, it wasn't me. Oh, right. I'm just living in England and totally not applying for jobs. Odd one. Maybe he prefers weekend punditry to the cut and thrust of the bottom of the Championship.
He's not applying for Fulham.
No, he was applying for Huddersfield, though, I'm saying.
Oh, right.
And he applied for some others as well. He was linked with some others, but Huddersfield explicitly said he applied for it.
On a slight tangent, imagine if you were a Huddersfield player and you were and you hadn't been told who your new manager was, and it was Patrick Kluivert, and you rock up, and you're a striker, and you rock up, and Patrick Kluivert's standing in front of you, going, "Okay, then,
show me
what you've got." How nervous would you be? Like, holy shit, this is the guy who used to play for Barcelona.
I think a lot of players relish that. Like, to avoid going on a complete tangent that may last longer than it should, a lot of players do relish that sort of thing. You can see the Michael Laudrup effect at Swansea, in the sense that he turned up, everyone goes, fuck, it's Michael Laudrup. They get really good, and then after a time, you just get used to him because he's the boss, and then suddenly it goes off.
Yeah.
So that probably Patrick Kluivert is waiting for a project where you can implement digital philosophy.
Not everyone in Europe sounds like Louis van Gaal.
No, Patrick Kluivert sounds like...
Oh, right, I thought you were
and he has a philosophy as well, because they're all like the same. It's all, it's Dutch football, like with the philosophy and the vision.
Okay, so we're going to get Danny Blind in as an assistant manager then.
Esoteric tactical analysis, mate.
Fair play.
That's how it is.
Lovely way to...
Alright, so this was our champion...
conclusion.
Yes, indeed. I was trying to draw it, and then you were talking over it.
I'm so sorry. Would you like to try again?
Yes.
Okay.
Welcome...
Do you want me to do it?
No, yeah, go on actually. I said welcome, so fuck this.
This is the final minutes of our broadcast. Broadcast? That's an interesting one. Okay, fine.
This is the finale of the podcast. We hope that you enjoyed what you've listened to. Please let us know if you've got anything to say about it. Comment, if it's on YouTube, do comment, do give us a like, because it helps bring up the views and allows us to, see if people actually enjoy this. If you're on the Mixcloud, do give me a follow personally. I may change the channels at some point in the future, so you're not following me as a human being, which might seem off-putting, as opposed to the Red Devil Review as an entity. Please keep up with your support. Please let other people know. If you know other Man United fans, let them listen to it, let them see what you think. We're obviously going to always be trying to improve, so obviously if you've got anything to say to us that you think would substantially improve what we're doing and what we're going to aim to do in the future, then please let us know. Thank you very much for listening, and hopefully you'll hear our voices soon enough talking about us dicking on Leicester and Falcao's glorious hat-trick. Until then, it's bye from me.
And it's bye from me.